Hey, my ADHD family. Welcome to another episode of ADHD Love Parent Talk, where I bring on a variety of guests and we talk about all things ADHD. And the purpose of these episodes is to just provide you lots of information so you have tools to put in your toolbox and you can pull them out as you're just going through your particular ADHD journey. And today I am very excited to have my guest Kamden Hainsworth. And I actually connected with her through Instagram, and it was really interesting because I was looking at her profile and I saw that she had like over 100,000 followers on TikTok. And I thought, man, I got to see her on TikTok, but I don't have TikTok. My kids have been trying to get me to use TikTok and I just never got on it. But finally, I have TikTok and I looked at her profile and she is absolutely amazing. She's able to tell stories about ADHD through TikTok. Her videos are amazing. I'm going to put her the website or the page down in the comments below because I definitely want you to check that out. But again, I'm just excited to have her here. So Kamden, welcome. I'm very excited to have you, as I keep saying. And I want you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself and then just share, why do you know so much about ADHD?
Perfect. Yeah, nice to meet you, and thanks for having me on. This is so much fun. The more information we can get out there, the better. So
yes,
full support to ADHD. This is awesome. So I'm Kamden Hainsworth. I live in Utah. I have 3 daughters. My oldest is diagnosed with ADHD. I was a 6th grade teacher for a number of years and loved it. Did really well teaching. But when my kids came, all at once, it felt like their ages right now are 7, 6, and 4. I was like, wow, I can't handle anything except for taking care of these kiddos. And with a very, very, very hyperactive ADHDer, you all know that that is even more of a handful. You know, it's just not necessarily what we are expecting. They keep us on our toes. So I guess that kind of also answers why I know so much about ADHD. And I'm constantly learning. And as a 6th grade teacher, I seem to always get a classroom full of ADHDers. Right. And truthfully, they were like some of my very favorite students because they were the ones that would open up to me the most. I think that they were looking for a connection. They were looking for somebody that understood them. And often in 6th grade, you're not going to always get that from your peers, unfortunately. I feel like it's getting a little bit better, but I felt like as their teacher, I could listen and I could figure things out for them and hack our classroom a little bit more to help support them. So that was my first introduction. And then at 6 months old, my oldest, I just had this really big motherhood like impression that I would be advocating for this daughter of mine. She was everywhere. She was just so busy and loud and expressive and didn't sleep a wink. And there was just a lot that was put on my mind. And so I started buying books about ADHD and parenthood at that point. But it wasn't until last year at this time in 2019 of October that I stumbled upon some memes about adult ADHD. And for some reason, I had seen them before, but for some reason this time they hit deep. And when that started to happen, I was actually in the middle of somewhat of a mental breakdown. I started to put pieces together, started to learn more about adult ADHD, and then about 9 months later was diagnosed with adult ADHD. So now I just get to advocate and show up for people and spread awareness about ADHD in general. That's great.
Nice. So let's break some of that down. So let's talk about you and your journey a little bit. So you found out that you had ADHD. You found out that you were diagnosed. What type were you diagnosed with? And how did you feel once you had that diagnosis?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I finally landed on a nurse practitioner that would listen in psychiatry hospice, and here in Utah, they can diagnose. And he just said, yes, it sounds like you have ADHD. He did not give me a specific type. I could tell you that I'm absolutely combined. Inattentive, just looking back at my life, I was a very, very good kid. But man, can I talk. I can ramble, I can talk, I can be expressive, and that's usually how we see the hyperactive type in adults. I also love the thrill. I love roller coasters and anything with adrenaline, and not that that means you have ADHD, but those things are adding up. What was the second half of your question? I apologize.
So the second part is, so how did you feel once you had it?
Oh, yeah.
Or what, once you had the diagnosis?
It's the greatest relief of my life. I was extremely relieved. It was funny. I had already started my ADHD Instagram, and I joked that I was going to have to change my handle from Kamden_ADHD to Kamden doesn't have ADHD if I didn't get the diagnosis. But I was so excited. I was so validated, relieved. I felt like that the puzzle pieces had started coming together once I started advocating for myself, even before my diagnosis. That was like the cherry on top of like, okay, now let's continue to move forward.
Nice. So what is your, just for parents who just got their diagnosis, or I mean, I guess it really, for this particular question, it just any adult that just got their diagnosis, what is your tips in terms of what were those next steps? I mean, what were those next steps for you? What now they have it, what do they do with it?
I love that question because that's why I created my directory, is because so many ADHDers, as adults, we do get diagnosed, and then we go straight to Google and we get completely overwhelmed because there's so much information. And unfortunately, I heard a lot of people saying there's a lot of false information out there. I really don't like to say that. What I like to say is that there's a lot of information that will lead you to believe one thing or another, and then you don't know what is your path.
Right.
And that's where the confusion comes up. So to answer your question more directly, I would say, come to the directory. Just kidding. I would say get very clear on what your biggest challenges with ADHD are. Your personal ADHD challenges. For some people, it's not memorization. It's not a memory thing. For a lot of us, it's a ginormous memory thing. For some people, they can seem to be extremely OCD, almost organized. For some of us, well, I won't show you my room right now. It's a real struggle to have organization. Get very clear on what your specific challenges are with ADHD, and then choose what values you want to live your life with. Don't choose organization just because the world says in order to be a functional human being, you have to be organized. It's not a good enough reason.
Right.
Make sure that you like your values, and then seek for the resources that are going to help you with those specific challenges so that you can build those bridges. That's more on the task-oriented side. Obviously, if medication is the route that you want to go, be very patient with the medication. It's trial and error, like that's just the bottom line. And if medication is seriously something that you feel like, yes, this is going to help me, and you want that to be part of your life, then accept the full picture of, I'm gonna have to be patient. I don't need to be hard on myself. The medication and the way that I feel on medication has nothing to do with my worth and who I am as a human being. It's just part of the process. Right. So I think that would be a great place to start.
No, that's very good. It's really interesting that you share that it really just depends on you and what your values are. And one of the things that I did struggle with is organization. I mean, people would come into my place. I got to the point where I'm just like, forget it. People would walk into my place and it was like a mess. And it was like I lived in my car, But what was interesting, and I was just telling somebody else about this, what was interesting is once I had children, the opposite happened. The mess became overwhelming. It was like a sensory overload. It was just like, so I'm still not the neatest person, but I'm a lot cleaner than I was. I mean, most of my life. So,
right?
So things can also change. So it's just kind of like you just go with it, right?
Yeah, and that's the flexibility is a huge portion that we feel like. I like to say you're the boss applesauce, right? You make the rules, you can change the rules.
Right.
You make the expectation, you can change the expectation. Like the only person holding you to a standard is you. And so if the standard is not working, even though you thought it might, will you please change it? And not give yourself a guilt trip for it, right? Like you didn't know what it was going to be like to have crazy kids and messes and plus your ADHD as a mom and trying to organize. You didn't know that. Give yourself a break and let's change the expectation a little bit. Yeah, totally.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's get into your daughter. So your daughter's been diagnosed, and by the way, your children are absolutely beautiful and precious, but
Thank you.
your daughter has been diagnosed, and it's like, okay, so same question for you. What do you do with it? So what type of activities, what was your path for your daughter just to help her manage through the ADHD situation?
Yeah, so we are in the heat of it still. I mean, so I can tell you based upon what we're trying to do and what we've tried to do and what we're finding works. It has been the biggest relief since she's been able to talk. Communication, it's not like all of a sudden we get ADHD. This stuff inside of us, and she also has very high anxiety. And so this that's been in her for so long is like me literally just trying to understand what this little human is needing, which we do as parents anyway. But when they're so expressive and so passionate and their feelings are so ginormous, we feel like we are the ones to blame and that we have to fix it. Right. So number one, don't try and fix them. They're not broken. Okay, they're not broken. The analogy that I gave yesterday, in fact, on a call was about a soccer field. I played soccer growing up. If you've ever seen like little tykes soccer fields, like they just like go where the ball is, right? Yeah. There's no structure. It's just like they're running around like crazy, and then they get exhausted and they've done nothing. They've made no goals. They've prevented no goals. Like it's just chaos, right? But when they learn about, hey, this is the defense, this is the midfield, this is the forward, this is the goalie. Right now, all you have to be is the goalie. It's okay if you don't score the goals right now. Giving them insights like that are so helpful. It's not that we're trying to fix them. Like they're still soccer players. They're still on the field. We're just trying to give them structure so that they can get to know themselves, or else they won't do it themselves. Like those kids are just going to run around because they want the ball. But if we say, hey, your entire like intent right now is just to be the goalie, is just to fill in the blank, right? Put your shirts in your drawer, not your socks, not your shoes. Say it out loud. Shirts in the drawer. Shirts in the drawer. That's your only job right now. Setting that structure and little aspects like that in our life have really been helpful.
And how old is she again?
She's 7.
So she's 7. So you are very open in terms of the ADHD piece. You're very open with her when you have these conversations?
I am, yeah. And I think since I've been diagnosed, it's even more so that way. And because at second graders, there's magic that happens. I don't know if you notice this, but when kids start to turn from 7 to 8, I am telling you, like they start to understand the world differently. Yeah. It is a really interesting thing, and they can start to express themselves differently too. And that's what's happening right now in our relationship. And I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful. But for those of you that have the little guys, like I made it through, you can too. Look for those little, squeeze them tight if that's what they need, but don't try and fix them. Like it's so hard, especially with ADHD myself, how sensitive I am to sound, to stimulation. We can get overwhelmed with our own issues and think that we have to fix them, but that's not the case. So yeah, 7-year-old, we talk about ADHD, and I love that it's for my sake, I can say, hey, we both have this in our brain. What you're experiencing right now, the reason why you feel like you're crying, the reason why there's tears coming down and you feel like you're loud and you're yelling, that's because our ADHD brain says, or we feel like there's this energy in us that needs to be heard, that needs to be expressed. Yeah. Right. And, validating that what they're doing doesn't make them bad or wrong, but identifying it as this is ADHD, and then letting them be. And then when they're having a more stable moment, giving them some tools to say, hey, I noticed that you were feeling like these ginormous feelings. Yes. That was so hard. Tell me a little bit more about how you were feeling then. Why were you so frustrated? Tell me about that frustration. And then saying, that's amazing. What do you think would work better than screaming and flailing your arms everywhere? What would make you feel heard and expressive and be able to help me, listen, like, and then having those conversations with them. I'm not perfect at it, but we are like, seriously, it's breaking through now that we're able to do that. There's also some really good podcasts that are breaking things down. Is that something I can mention?
Yeah, we're going to mention that towards the end because I want them to
Okay,
remember
cool.
and take it with them. But yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So, Kamden, I think that one of the things that, for me, it was really key that you said is going back to them and having that conversation, because number one, they're not hearing anything, right? While they're going through the emotion or just really upset or going through the frustration, or even when they're happy and energetic, they're not hearing anything, right? No. They're just moving, right? 20%. So going back to them once they're in a calmer state and explaining to them and having that conversation and letting them even provide some of the ideas depending on their age, I think that is huge. Totally. That is huge.
Yeah, it gives them the power. And they feel powerless a lot of the time, just like we as adults feel powerless with our ADHD. We're just like, I can't control this brain. Yeah. We give them little tools or opportunities to come up with tools. Man, that feels so great to finally be in charge of why we're doing the things we're doing.
Right. So parents that are struggling, they're just, they're trying some of these methods and they're just ready to give up, and they really can't because it's their children, right? Yeah. What would your tips be in terms of, how do they keep on going through these situations?
Oh, man. Yeah, when they decide that, like, come to me and tell me what your tips are too. So I'll share mine. But it is so hard, you guys. I kind of want to validate parents out there, if that's okay. Like, yes. I really fell into some major anxiety and depression sorry, that's the wrong word. Just trying to survive life, trying to keep my head above water. With difficult kids, it makes it even harder, and not knowing I had ADHD myself, it makes a lot more sense now. But, and so that honestly would be a really big portion of the advice I could give, is to practice self-care yourself.
Yes.
Get very clear on who you are. Give for me, it's the mornings I wake up, I choose to do scripture study, I pray, I meditate, I make my life intentional. I remind myself that I have worth. I remind myself that I am important. And then that way, when the blow-ups come, at least I've got both my feet on the floor. Yeah. And as parents, we're exhausted. And a lot of the times we don't want to wake up earlier than our kids. They wake up early as it is. But for me, that's the best time to do that. Mm-hmm. And then I guess just to piggyback off of that is just like medication. This is trial and error.
Yeah.
And remember that the actions that your kids take are no reflection on your worth or on theirs. That we each have our individual choice. Mm-hmm. And your biggest thing is to show up in love and to support them the best way that you know how. And there are resources out there, but at the same time, don't overwhelm yourself with so many resources that you feel like you're not living up to the expectation. Remember, you're the boss, applesauce.
Exactly.
And, but don't be afraid to seek help when you truly need help.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So let's turn a little bit back to your TikTok piece. So tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's really, really good. Like I said, you were my inspiration in making my first video. I was like,
yeah, fantastic. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So tell me what made you do it, and what made you continue to do it?
This was really cool. So I'd already started my Instagram in November, and the whole idea was to tell my pre-story of diagnosis. There's so many post stories, right? And so I wanted people to at least be able to see, if I ended up being diagnosed, what it looks like to, as a adult, like, be like, what? What do I have? And so I put that out there. But then I went down to California for Christmas, and my brother had just started doing TikTok for his platform that he's running with. And he's like, you've got to get on TikTok. That's what everyone is. I'm like, what the heck is TikTok? I think I seen like an advertisement pop up or something. And I was like, is that the dancing music thing? He's like, yeah, that's the one. I was like, okay. So it was the last day we were there. He's like, this is how you do it. And he showed me how to make one. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And so that's what I did. And I just started to be consistent. And what was cool about TikTok is that I saw how many people were able to see it. Pushes out to thousands of people. And I was like, this is different. This is different because I don't have to be so worried about having the right hashtags, and it was more fun. And I felt like it was just a little bit less raw, more raw. And I'm like, for somebody that doesn't put on makeup every day and get ready every day, I was like, now this is a platform that I can do. So as I learned my education about ADHD, I just had fun sharing it. And I've always been an educator. So it just made sense that it would be the right platform for me.
Oh, that's cool. That is very cool. Yeah, I mean, you have just grown tremendously in a short time. So you've been on it for about a year now, or a little over a year?
Yeah, a little less than a year. A year and, you know, it was like the 28th of December or something. So yeah, a little less than a year. And I think I caught the wave, honestly. Sometimes good things happen. And I feel like I got on there with enough traction before COVID hit. And then everyone got on TikTok, you know, it became this thing. And I was already a little bit established there. And so I was able to ride that wave. And it's been such a blessing to get to know the ADHD audience. It's been so fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to talk about was your ADHD Directory. So it's called the ADHD Directory. So again, yeah. How did that platform start and what does it entail?
Yeah, exactly. So it's the ADHD Directory. So the D and the directory goes together. So don't put it in twice. It won't get there. Okay. The directory actually was born out of the needs of the people. Like I had no intention of. I had an intention of creating an audience of people to support, but I had no idea what the support piece would look like, except for the education that I was getting. When I started receiving messages over and over and over again, it says, what do I do? What are the resources? How do I get this started? All of the people started coming to mind that I had reached out to when I was in my crisis, right? And that's psychologists, coaches, different Instagram accounts, podcasters, authors, all those types of people. I just sent all these messages to them saying, tell me what you do. Like, I think I have adult ADHD. I want to help people. Tell me what you do. And they started coming to mind, but I couldn't, my thumbs couldn't keep up to the messages. And I mean, I'm a mom of 3. I didn't have enough time in the day to respond to all the messages. So I was just walking through my house one day and just this, you know, vision in my mind, it just said ADHD Directory. And I was like, what does that mean, you know? And the idea of like being directed from the point when you think you have ADHD or diagnosis to get you on the road, to get that ball rolling, just like what we said at the very beginning of this interview. That's what I want to do, is to direct people to those resources that are really specific to their needs, to great people that are putting out great content that helped me so much in my time of need, to connecting them as well. And then hopefully helping them find an ADHD home that makes sense for them.
Oh, that is really cool.
That's what I do. I take consultations. Yeah.
So if people wanted to be a part of it, so they've seen it, how do they reach out to you, or what do they need to do to be part of the ADHD Directory?
Okay, so there's two aspects of that. I don't know why my light's getting so dark. There you go. There's 2 aspects of it. There's the aspect of the professional side. Okay, so let's say that somebody's doing an ADHD course, or you know, they do coaching or whatever it might be, or have a podcast. They can join the directory. And they can be after we get to know each other, if I feel like they're a good fit, then they can join the directory and I will, you know, bring people to them. Or they can do advertising. So let's say they have something really big going on and they want lots of people to hear about it. Well, I've got lots of people that need to know about it. So I share that and we do a little bit of advertising that way. That's not to say that everything you see on my account is all advertised. Most is not. But at the same time, I believe in helping small businesses and people get helped in connecting them. So that's what we do. Then on the other side, on the client side, you set up a consultation. If you go to my link tree on Instagram or on TikTok, or if you go to the ADHDdirectory.com, just book a consultation. As soon as I see that money come through, then we hop on that Zoom call And we spend 25 minutes getting very deep, getting very clear on what your challenges are, what your goals are, and how we can get resources to help you reach those. And then I can, if you so want, I will connect you with a coach in a specific email. You can take it offline, get to know them, see if that coach works. If all those resources I give you don't work, come back until, like I have you come back until you find your home, until you find somewhere where you feel like is making the most sense for where you want to go.
That's really nice. And it's almost like a mentor relationship, right? You're just trying to find that person that you connect with, or you're helping them find the person or people or community to connect to. So
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. I am like you guys. I'm like everyone else. I am not trained, except for I am very educated. I'm very educated on what I have educated myself on. But I just like to be that connector. So many of us have that executive function where that first step feels like this huge boulder that we just can't quite get going, can't quite, that dysfunction that makes things really difficult. And if I can be that person that gets the boulder rolling toward where you need to be, then I'm just so happy to. It's been so much fun. So much fun. We just celebrated our client in September and we just launched in May. So that's great, and if that's the way that I can help you, great. I also take DMs. Like if people just have a short question, DM me on Instagram. There's not like a certain time period I can get back to you, but I do my very best to get back to you pretty timely.
Nice. Okay, so last question. Is there any resources? So you were about to mention a couple of podcasts, but any resources if people want just more information about ADHD as a whole, whether it's from a parent point of view or from their, for themselves, do you have podcasts like you were going to mention, but also books or YouTube channels that you might be able to share, or anything else?
Oh man, yes. Because that is what I do, right? I have lists and lists of them. But the one I was going to mention before is called Journey with Me Through ADHD. Caitlin Mabry, she just barely started a podcast. Do you know Caitlin?
I do. I interviewed her. Yeah, she's awesome.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I love Caitlin. So she's one of the very first people I met on a Zoom when I started doing this. So I have been with her since her birth of her podcast as an idea to actually putting it out there. Great way for parents and kids to communicate on a very basic level, like just I think it's like 5 to 7 minutes. So fantastic. She also has written a great book called Hi, It's Me, I Have ADHD. And so for those elementary school age kids, fantastic book. Yeah. I have lots of podcasts that I would recommend, books. Let me tell you about the people that I have benefited personally from, and then we'll keep it at that. I mean, I've benefited for so many, but I've actually been a part of their product. Coaching with Brooke has been amazing for me as an adult with ADHD. Focused by Kristen Carter has been incredible for me with ADHD, as well as her podcast, I Have ADHD Podcast. I love ADHD for Smart A Women by Tracy. I think it's amazing. For people that are a little bit more holistically minded, I love ADHD and ADD Tips. They also have a book called Drummer in the Great Mountain. And there's 1,000 other things that I am, neglecting. But the books that I most often let people know about are these ones. Oh, here's Caitlin's book. But are these ones back here? That's why they're back here, is because I use them so often. Dr. Carroccia wrote both of these books that I actually really like. These are evaluating and treating kids with ADHD, but I use them for adults too. Super helpful. And then I haven't even met this author, but I think this is the book I would have written if I could write a book. This is the book I'd write, but I don't have to because she already did. So just called Queen of Distraction, and it's good for stay-at-home moms or just moms in general that are trying to get life a little bit more organized in their home. And I read just like a half a page at a time, and I still feel like I come away with some information. So hopefully that's helpful. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll put all of those books and podcasts in the comments below. So no, that's great. So
awesome.
So just to close it out, is there anything else that I did not mention, that you did not mention, that you just wanted to, any last minute thoughts that you wanted to say?
I'm just so glad that people like you are doing this, honestly. I think that I live in a world of abundance. At least I try my best to. I think the more that we're supportive of each other's journeys through ADHD in all of the, in all the small details and the differences and the similarities, if we can be the most supportive of each other's journey, then we're going to make a lot more progress than if we're constantly in competition. So I guess it would be, don't worry less about what other people are going to think about how you approach ADHD and more about what's right for you and your family, and be confident.
Thank you, Kamden. If they want to get a hold of you, can you share your handle or any other websites, any way that they can get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Yeah, of course. It's at Kamden with the K. So at KAMDEN dot, oh no, just kidding. That's my email. underscore ADHD. And that's both on Instagram and TikTok. Or you can email me at kamden.adhd@gmail.com, or of course the ADHD
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That was so fun. It was great meeting you and getting to know you more. I hope we can do more like this, even if it's just a quick live on Instagram. I
love it. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And I have to meet your kids. Got to be mine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Hopefully they'll have their hair brushed. I would have brought her on, but I was like, oh man, she got like sticky face and like her hair is like, wah! It's like, well, I guess that would have been the real, right? I guess I could have showed you the real. Next time.
Oh, that is too funny. Well, great.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us for another episode of ADHD Love Parent Talk. And if you want more content like this, please definitely hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell because, as soon as a video comes out, it will notify you. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Kamden. Have a wonderful day. Bye.